My mother showed up after 20 years with kids I'd never met before. She demanded a share of my late father's inheritance, claiming she's still family. So I asked where she was when my father passed away. My father passed away from a heart attack that occurred right there in his workplace 5 days ago. Not in any other way. The minute before that, he was still alive and working on some building contract. The next minute, he was no longer there. It was not long. According to the paramedic, I believe that is meant to make me feel better, but it does not end up doing so. Everything was organized by me on my own. It was the funeral home, the flowers, the service, and the piece of land in the cemetery. Dad was wealthy, so I was able to afford to do it the correct way. His business associates arrived, individuals with whom he had collaborated for years on the construction of homes all around the city. Additionally, his pals from the golf club decided to turn up there in order to pay their respects. Even some of the workers who had been employed at his building sites. They never stopped going on and on about how much of a nice man he was, how he helped them out when things were difficult, and how he provided them with a consistent job. It was a pleasant experience. The pastor shared his thoughts on the father's love for his family, as well as his kind nature. I was the only member of his family that remained after everything else. After the departure of his mother, the only other person who truly mattered to Dad was his grandmother, who had passed away 2 years before. When I heard someone cry out my name, Rachel, I was standing at the gravesite watching them drop the casket. After turning around, I became completely still. There she was, my mother, standing from a distance of around 12 feet, accompanied by 4 children and a man whom I did not recognize. The eldest appeared to be approximately 18 years old, while the youngest appeared to be around 12 years old. Every one of them was dressed in black clothing, as if they were a part of this place. For the past 22 years, I hadn't seen her. I could see that she was becoming older. Her dresses were distinct, and that they were shorter and darker. Despite the fact that she had gained weight, it was undeniably her. In this place. What are you doing? I inquired about it. My tone was icy and abrasive on the way out. How were you even aware that he had passed away? You are not aware of this. I was informed by a few of my relatives. He placed his hand on her shoulder and he was standing next to her. The man was tall, balding, and dressed in a low-quality suit. The person she fled away with all those years ago must be this boyfriend or husband. With an uneasy expression on their faces, the 4 children stood behind them. I can't believe you didn't invite me to the funeral, she remarked in response. It made me giggle to say he was my husband once. My father's grave was the location when I actually laughed out loud. Your husband. You left him 22 years ago. You left both of us. The memories came flooding back to me as I continued to speak. The event took place when I was 8 years old. The father had gone on a business trip to the upstate area in order to look at some property. He was only scheduled to be absent for a period of 3 days. When his car finally pulled out of the driveway, Mom waited for it. Following that, she began packing. When I asked her where she was going, I recalled asking her, "It's going to be a while before Mommy can return." She concluded by saying, "You stay here. Daddy will be back soon." However, she did not wait for her father. On the kitchen table, she left a message that she had written along with 2 luggage that she had packed. After then, she exited the building and started driving away in her vehicle. She left me there by myself for a full 3 days without any company. I was so terrified that I couldn't even stand it. As a result of my lack of knowledge on how to prepare other foods, I ate cereal for both morning and lunch. While I waited for someone to return home, I would watch television. It kept running through my head that when my mother returned, she would realize that she had forgotten something, but she didn't. When my father arrived home at last, he saw me sitting on the couch wearing the same clothing that I had been wearing for the previous 3 days. I cried as I ran to him and told him that his mother had passed away. He read the message that she had written. Despite the fact that I never saw what it stated, his face became white. Then he rolled it up into a ball and tossed it away in the garbage. After that, everything happened very quickly. Mom was supposed to show up in court for the divorce and custody hearing, but she never showed up. The judge awarded Dad full custody and terminated her parental rights. He said this out loud more to himself than to me. After that, everything happened very quickly. Dad called his lawyer. Papers were filed. My father informed me later that my mother had been having an affair with a man from her workplace. They had been preparing this for months, waiting for the appropriate opportunity to go away together. That moment came when my father left town and I was left alone and defenseless. At that point, she was legally removed from our life. Rachel, these are your brothers and sisters. She continued, nodding to the children. And this is Ethan. Now here she was 22 years later with her boyfriend and their 4 children, behaving as if she had some right to be at her father's burial. He is 18 years old. Olivia is 15 years old. I turned my gaze to them, and they returned my gaze with eyes that were filled with curiosity. And little Ben is 12. They probably had no idea who I was or why their mother had brought them to a stranger's funeral. I don't care, I said. I turned away from her and walked toward my car. I heard her calling my name, but I didn't look back. I had nothing to say to her. She'd made her choice a long time ago, and now she'd have to live with it. The past 22 years flashed through my mind as I drove home. Dad and I had worked together to figure things out. It was difficult at first. It was heartbreaking, and I had to work constantly to avoid thinking about what my mother had done. I spent the majority of my time with Grandma Dad's mother, who moved in to help take care of me. However, Dad's business took off. He channeled all of the anger and pain that he was experiencing into his work. He began to get larger contracts, which resulted in him making more money. We moved into a massive house in the most desirable part of town. He never remarried, and he never even had a serious girlfriend, despite the fact that women tried. He claimed that I was enough of a family for him. I attended college through my father's financial support and studied business administration. He bought me an apartment when I graduated. I got a good job, but I didn't really need to work because of what Grandma left me when she died. She'd saved up $250,000 over the years. Plus, she left me her house. I sold the house and invested everything smart. I could live off the interest if I wanted to, but I liked having something to do. And now he was gone, and I was all by myself. Well, I wasn't completely alone. He had left everything to me, including the business, the house, his cars, and all of his money. I discovered his will in the drawer of his desk. It was straightforward and unambiguous. Everything goes to Rachel. I suppose that my mother found out about it in some way. This is probably the reason why she showed up today. It's not because she was upset about her father's passing. Rather, she wanted to know what she could get out of it. After the funeral, a few days passed, and I made an effort to get back to some kind of normal routine. Normal is a relative term when your entire world has just been turned upside down. I had to deal with the company that my father owned, figure out what to do with all of his assets, and handle the legal stuff that comes with someone passing away. I made the decision not to sell the construction company because my father had started it from scratch and it seemed wrong to just get rid of it. In addition, the company was making a good amount of money. Chris, my father's deputy, had been working for the company for 15 years. He was completely knowledgeable about the business, and my father trusted him completely. As a result, I appointed Chris as CEO of the company while maintaining ownership for myself. It was Tuesday afternoon around 3 o'clock when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone to come in. So I looked through the peephole before opening the door. It was my mother standing there by herself this time, with no husband or children present. It seemed like the right thing to do. I was in my apartment going through some of my father's paperwork. Despite my better judgment, I stepped aside and allowed her to enter my living room. She looked around, taking in the nice furniture, the large windows, and the expensive art that was hanging on the walls. She was wearing jeans and a sweater, and she appeared to be nervous. I opened the door, but I did not invite her inside. "What do you want? Can I come in? Just give me a few minutes." "This is a beautiful place," she said. "How did you get my address?" I asked around. "Some of your father's distant relatives gave it to me." "Great." So now she was tracking me down through family connections. "What do you want?" I asked again. She sat down on my couch without being invited. "Rachel, I know you inherited a lot of money from your father and from your grandmother too." I felt my stomach drop. How the hell did she know about Grandma's money? "What's your point?" "My point is that you're very wealthy now, and I think you should share some of that wealth with your family." I stared at her. "My family?" "Yes. With me and your brothers and sisters. Those 4 children you met at the funeral. They're your half-siblings. You are single, you do not have any children of your own to worry about, and you have more money than you could ever spend. In the meantime, I am struggling to raise 4 children on the salary that my husband earns. Rachel, they need assistance with school, with college funds, and with basic living expenses. I actually laughed because I couldn't help myself. Are you serious right now? Completely serious. While I was sitting down opposite of her, I said, "Let me get this straight. You abandoned me when I was 8 years old. You left me alone in an empty house for 3 days. You never called, never wrote, never sent a birthday card, and you never asked how I was doing for 22 years, and now you want me to give you money." She had the decency to look ashamed for about 3 seconds. Then she straightened up and became defensive. "I never loved your father, Rachel. I couldn't live with him anymore, but I knew he would take care of you. You were always his little princess. You left me because you wanted to run away with your boyfriend and you didn't want to be bothered with a kid." Her face turned red. "I never loved your father." And now I continued. "Now that your father has passed away and you have discovered that I inherited his money, you suddenly remember that you have a daughter. Suddenly you want a relationship. However, what you really want is half of everything." "That is not true, is it? Then why didn't you fight for custody? Why didn't you even show up to court?" She didn't have an answer for that. "It's not about the money," she said. But her voice wasn't convincing. "The hell it isn't? You didn't love Dad, but you sure love his money now." She tried a different approach. "Rachel, those children are innocent in all this. They didn't do anything wrong. Ethan wants to go to college, but we can't afford it. Olivia needs braces. Little Ben has learning disabilities and needs special tutoring. They're your brothers and sisters. No, they're not. They're your children with the man you left us for. There's nothing to me. How can you be so cold? Cold. You want to talk about cold? You left an 8-year-old alone in a house for 3 days. You never contacted that child for 22 years and now you show up demanding money. That's cold." She stood up, getting frustrated. "You have millions of dollars, Rachel, more than one person needs. I'm asking for help with my children's education and basic needs. Then ask their father. Ask your husband. Don't ask the daughter you threw away. Your father turned you against me. Your actions spoke for themselves." She was getting desperate now. I could see it in her eyes. "Rachel, please, I'm begging you, just think about it. These kids are struggling, and you could help them with pocket change compared to what you have. My father never said a bad word about you to me. He didn't have to. Your actions spoke for themselves. You keep talking about what a concerned mother you are today, how worried you are about the futures of your children. However, 22 years ago you cared so little about your kid that you left her alone and afraid for 3 days. I was young, and I made errors. You keep talking about how worried you are about your children's futures." I walked toward the door and then turned back. "This isn't over. Those children deserve better." "Yeah, they do. They deserve a mother who doesn't abandon her children when things get tough." After she left, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, shaking. I opened the door and said, "I want you to leave. Please leave now." Rachel made her way toward the door. I couldn't believe the nerve of that woman. After 22 years of nothing, she wanted half of everything that Dad had worked for. I thought about those 4 children, and I felt bad for them. It wasn't their fault that their mother was selfish, and it was their father's fault that he apparently couldn't provide for them in the way that they needed. However, I wasn't responsible for them. After my mother left, he might have crumbled into pieces, but instead he channeled his anguish into constructing something better for us. He earned every dime he left me, and I wasn't going to let her guilt me into giving it away. I didn't owe them anything. My father had worked his tail off to establish the life that we had. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from a law firm that I had never heard of before. As I opened the letter, my hands were shaking. It was a lawsuit. My mother was suing me for half of Dad's estate. I called my lawyer immediately after receiving that lawsuit. His name is John Harris, and he had handled Dad's will as well as some business contracts over the years. Dad trusted him, so I did as well. When I showed David the documents, he said, "Rachel, I'm sorry to hear about this. However, you shouldn't worry too much about it. Your mother has no legal grounds to claim any part of your father's estate, but she's actually trying to sue me. Yes, but that doesn't mean that she will win. Anyone can file a lawsuit. Winning is a different story. We will fight this." The lawsuit asserted that my mother was entitled to a portion of my father's estate because she had been married to him for 8 years and had assisted in my upbringing. Her attorneys argued that she had made a contribution to the family and that she was entitled to compensation. Although the lawsuit was finalized, we were still required to go through the entire legal process. The trial began 4 months after his death. She had the audacity to bring her husband and all 4 children, and they sat in the front row as if they were the victims here. The children kept staring at me with these sad eyes, as if I were the villain who was preventing them from receiving their rightful inheritance. I was as nervous as hell as I walked into that courtroom. My mother was sitting at the other table with her attorney, a thin guy wearing an expensive suit who appeared to think he was hot. "Your Honor." The attorney for Mom went first. My client had been married to the deceased for 8 years. During that time, she assisted in the upbringing of his daughter and made contributions to the household. As a result, she is entitled to her fair share of the assets that were acquired during the marriage. After that, he began to discuss how his mother had attempted to maintain a relationship with me after the divorce, but my father had prevented her from doing so. That was when I almost lost it. She has 4 children who require financial assistance for school and basic needs, the lawyer said. Meanwhile, the defendant has inherited millions of dollars that she cannot possibly spend in her lifetime. When it was David's turn, he spelled out the genuine circumstances. She ran away with her lover and never contacted her daughter again. She did not fight for custody, she did not pay child support, and she did not make any effort to be a part of this child's life for a period of 22 years. He had copies of the divorce papers, the custody documents, and everything else. Your Honor. The plaintiff abandoned her daughter, who was 8 years old, and left her alone in a house for 3 days while her father was away on business. This is not about family relationships or fairness. This is about money, plain and simple. David pulled out bank records, phone records, and everything else that proved that my mother had never attempted to get in touch with me. The plaintiff only appeared in the defendant's life after she found out about the inheritance. The judge then began asking questions. That's when things got interesting. "Mrs. Green," the judge said to my mother, "why didn't you contact your daughter when she turned 18 and was no longer under her father's control?" Mom shifted in her seat. "I thought it was better to let her have a stable life with her father. But you're here now claiming you wanted a relationship with her." "Yes, Your Honor. I have always wanted to be a part of her life." "Then why did you wait until after her father had passed away and she had inherited his estate?" Mom's attorney raised his hand and said, "Objection, Your Honor. The timing of my client's outreach does not negate her legal rights." The judge responded by saying, "I'll allow the question." Mom appeared to be flustered. I had heard about the death through relatives, and I thought it was time to reconnect. The judge wasn't buying it. "Mrs. Green, why didn't you provide any financial support to your daughter over the past 22 years? But now you believe she should provide financial support to you." Mom couldn't answer that one. She just sat there, opening and closing her mouth like a fish. "And why?" The judge continued, "Should the court award you half of an estate that was built entirely after you abandoned your family?" At that point, Mom really lost her cool. She got to her feet and began yelling, "She doesn't need all that money, she's alone. Nobody cares about her anyway. She's selfish and cold, just like her father was." The entire courtroom fell silent, and even her own children appeared embarrassed. I felt as though she had slapped me after everything that she had done. She was calling me selfish and cold. She was saying nobody cared about me. The judge banged his gavel. "Mrs. Green, sit down and control yourself." Her lawyer was trying to calm her down, but the damage was done. The judge looked at all the evidence, looked at Mom, then looked at me. "I find no legal basis for the plaintiff's claim," he said. The defendant inherited this estate through a valid will from her father, who had full legal right to dispose of his assets as he saw fit. He paused and looked directly at my mother. "Furthermore, I believe that the defendant is fortunate that such a mother abandoned her, as she clearly deserved a better life than the plaintiff could have provided for her." Mom's face turned white. The plaintiff had forsaken her parental responsibilities 22 years ago and had not made any effort to be a part of her daughter's life until she learned about this inheritance. "Case dismissed," the court said, despite the fact that her attorney attempted to raise an objection. "This isn't over," she screamed. "You'll regret this." David stated firmly, "Ma'am, you need to back away from my client." As we were leaving the courthouse, my mother pushed by her attorney and got right in my face. "The court has decided that the defendant is entitled to pay all of the costs." Her husband finally came over and pulled her away, but she kept staring at me with pure hatred in her eyes. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, she somehow got my phone number and started calling me. Then she started texting. The messages were crazy, talking about how I was evil, how I'd stolen her children's future, how God would punish me. I blocked her number, but she got new phones and kept calling from different numbers. Then one day she showed up at my office. Dad's construction company had a nice building downtown, and she walked right into the lobby with all 4 kids. "I want to see Rachel," she yelled at the receptionist. "She's my daughter, and she's abandoned her family." The poor receptionist didn't know what to do. I heard the commotion and came out to see what was happening. "You need to leave," I told Mom. "These children are hungry," she screamed. "You have millions, and they're going without food because of your selfishness." The kids looked mortified. Other employees were staring. It was a complete scene. I called David once more and told him that we need a restraining order. "I had hoped that it wouldn't come to that, but I actually believe that you are correct." David filed for the restraining order the following day. Security came and escorted her out, but the damage had already been done. My employees were asking questions, and the whole thing was embarrassing as hell. "Your Honor," David stated, "my client is being harassed and stalked by her biological mother, who has made threats and disrupted her workplace." He presented all of the evidence, including the crazy text messages, the phone record showing dozens of calls from different numbers, and witness statements from my office staff about the scene Mom had caused. We were required to return to court, but this time it was a different judge. The judge represented a woman in her 50s who appeared to have seen everything. "Mrs. Green, you lost your lawsuit against your daughter. That should have been the end of it. Instead, you've chosen to harass and intimidate her. She's my daughter," Mom yelled. "I have a right to talk to her." The judge did not buy it. The attorney for Mom tried to argue that all she wanted was a relationship with her daughter, but the judge did not buy it. "You gave up that right 22 years ago when you abandoned her," the judge replied in a chilly tone, "and you certainly do not have the right to stalk and threaten her." The judge approved the restraining order, which said that Mom was required to maintain a distance of at least 600 yards from me, my house, and my business. She was unable to phone me, send me a text message, or get in touch with me through third parties. "You will be in violation of this injunction. Mrs. Your arrest and charges of contempt of court are going to be brought against you, Green. Does it make sense to you?" My mother only scowled at me from the other side of the courtroom. Her spouse appeared to be ashamed, and the children appeared to be perplexed and distressing. For a moment, I was almost sad for them. Not quite. That occurred around half a year ago. Since then, I have not had any communication from my mother. It is unknown to me if she is still residing in the same location or whether the children are doing well. Honestly, I have no interest in finding out. I am occasionally asked if I feel guilty about the fact that I did not assist those children. There is no wrongdoing. Those who have had such kind of mother claim that they did not choose to have her. Indeed, they are correct. It's true that those children didn't do anything wrong, but I didn't either. When I was 8 years old, I did not seek to be abandoned. There was no way that I would have asked for my mother to vanish from my life for 22 years and then suddenly resurface and demand money. The life that we enjoyed was built by Dad, who put in a lot of hard work. The departure of his mother might have caused him to disintegrate, but instead he channeled all of that suffering into the creation of something more positive. Through his own labor and self-sacrifice, he was able to earn every single dollar that he left for me. A lady who treated me like garbage is not going to get it from me. I am not going to give it to her. On occasion, I find myself wondering what might have transpired if my mother had approached me in a different manner. Would she have shown up to the burial of her father and shown her regret? In the event that she had requested to partake in a cup of coffee and discuss the past, if she had admitted that she had wronged me and made an effort to make restitution for her actions? It is not true that she accomplished any of anything. She made the decision that I owed her anything after seeing monetary signs. Despite the fact that she had a deep-seated hatred for her father, she thought that she was entitled to his financial support. Occasionally, I find myself thinking about those children, Ethan, Olivia, and Ben. I am hoping that they are doing well. I pray that they are able to acquire the knowledge they require and mature into individuals who are superior to their mother. It is not my obligation to deal with it. It is my duty to pay tribute to my father's memory and to lead the kind of life that he would have desired for me. The reason he left everything to me was because he loved me and believed that I would handle it in the appropriate manner. The construction company has been successfully managed by me. As CEO, Chris is doing an excellent job, and we are even growing into new areas through his efforts. With the remaining funds, I have made several astute transactions and investments. When I want to contribute to causes that are important to me, I travel. I like to live a comfortable life without being flashy about it. I am now dating someone. In addition to being a teacher, his name is Jack. The fact that he is unaware of all the money is something that I find appealing. He likes me not because of what I inherited, but because of who I am. Jack would have been liked by Dad. He is sincere and kind. The sort of man who constructs things rather than pulling them down is the kind of man. Every day I remember my father. On a monthly basis, I pay a visit to his grave and share with him the latest developments in my life, including Jack the business and my life in general. In spite of the fact that he is unable to hear me, I still feel a connection to him. At times, the house has a sense of emptiness. Despite its size, it was designed to accommodate a family. It is possible that Jack and I will one day be able to populate it with our own children. That is something that Dad would have cherished. When it comes to my mother, I don't think about her very often anymore. To me, she is an unknown person. Only our DNA is the same, but that's all. The elements that comprise a true family go beyond DNA. When you are in need of them, real family members are there for you. They will not desert you and then demand payment 22 years later. If they are your true relatives, my father was the only member of my family. In my eyes, Grandma was my true family. Perhaps at some point in the future, Jack will be as well. There is no change in the status of the restraining order. My desk drawer is where I save the documents in case something happens. My guess is that I won't require it at all. I believe that my mother has now understood that I am not to be considered her retirement plan. Not anymore am I feeling furious. Although I was, for a time, rage is a draining emotion. Right now, when I think of her, I don't feel anything at all. She is not meaningful to me in any way. My father's company is my responsibility, and I also have a relationship to tend to and a future to construct. That is what counts at this point. At times, others suggest that I ought to forgive her and that harboring resentment is detrimental to my health. As for me, I have no ill will against you. Simply put, I am defending myself against someone who has demonstrated that she cannot be trusted. When it comes to forgiving, there is a distinction between just being dumb. For my own mental well-being, I decided to forgive her a very long time ago. Forgiveness, however, does not imply that I have to allow her to return to my life or give her the money that belonged to my father.